right. We're rolling on both cameras. Hello and welcome to the podcast. My name is Javon. I will be your host today. I'm a voice actor and an actor of 6 years in the industry. Recently moved out to Los Angeles. I have an agent for on-camera commercial representation and for voiceover and on-camera theatrical. I'm still seeking an agent, but that's kind of what today's situation and conversation is going to be entailing. So welcome back to another episode of Artist Over Actor, the podcast where we go over the creative ways that you can take creative control of your actual work and become the best creative that you possibly can be. Say creative 10 times fast. So, let's get started. On today's episode, we're going to be going over something that I found very insightful and very important. And that's when I had a conversation with a casting director for a recent callback that I received. Now, this casting director, before she brought us all in the room, she said one thing that was very important. And one thing that resonates with me and that I hope will resonate with you. And it's that you shouldn't always be talking about yourself as an actor. One of the questions that she asked in the interview or in the audition was, what are your hobbies? What do you like to do? And as multi-hyphenate creatives, we always go back to the thing that we're actively doing at the moment. So, hey, I am a musician. That's what I like to do. On my off time, I play in jazz trios. I travel the country. I do this, that, and the other. Or, hey, I'm an actor, Full time, I was just in an Oscar-nominated film. I in the lead role in a recurring television series. But she made specific sure to say, no talking about acting. What do you do outside of acting? What are your hobbies? What brings you fulfillment when it comes to your life outside of acting? And that's something that I always like to talk about and something that's very important to discuss today. And that's also something that can be helped taught with a new sponsor that we've taken on, my company. You see, I'm going to be hosting a creative summit of sorts, and I'm going to be hosting classes. These are going to be coming within the next couple of months. There's going to be more information on that. But we are sponsoring today's segment as we talk and launch in to the talk about creativity and how that could be the thing that lands you your work, your agent, your manager, your career moving forward. So let's get back to her topic at hand. Why she said no talking about acting. A one-trick pony is somebody who is only good for one specific thing. That's not what we're trying to be. We're not trying to necessarily be celebrities. There's nothing wrong with wanting to be a celebrity. But a celebrity typically becomes that way because they have something to offer, whether that be entertainment value, skill, artistry, something to show, and something to share. And one of the most important things, in my opinion, and in the opinions of many people a lot wiser than me, from Stephen Nekonakovich, I believe. I apologize for butchering that. Or Rick Rubin, or many people much smarter than me. You have to live a full life and let go of your ego before you're able to fully serve your creative pursuit. Now, what does that mean? My wife and I live in a travel trailer. This is our travel trailer. If you don't know, that is actually my studio in the back behind me, where I do all of my voiceover work. And I record all of my self-tapes in this room. Before we went out on the road, we lived in a traditional house, right, in Providence. Shout out to Rhode Island, absolutely love it. And it was more difficult for me to land work. I know my skills, I know what I'm good at. I know that I have the wise voice with gravitas, and that on camera I come off as friendly, supporting. I come off as the one who leads you out of a bad situation, things of that nature. But I always felt like I was just playing these roles, caricaturizing these actual specific qualities instead of embodying them. It wasn't until my wife and I actually bought this travel trailer and went on the road that I started to more readily land jobs. And I was always confused why that was. You see, there was always more noise than in my studio because we were living on the road. I was recording in this trailer. It wasn't as sound controlled. It wasn't as quality as it was before when we were standing still. But there was one big thing that had changed. I started to live life outside of this. We started to travel, hike, see new sights. I had a camera. I started to photograph a lot more, practice photo editing. I worked on animation in Blender. I was doing a lot of writing, and lo and behold, I was landing a lot more gigs when it came to acting. Why is that? It's because I was able to stop caricaturizing these roles that I was trying to embody and simply fall into them. I was no longer thinking, okay, the specs say wise and wisdomous. That's this voice in this section of my chest, coming out in this way at this pace. I was simply able to just do instead of trying to do. Try is something that is very, very easy to hear when it comes to either your self-tapes or your voiceover auditions. Whether you're trying too hard, you're pushing too hard, or there's anxiety or unsettle in your performance or in your voice, that's something that will come across. The microphone and the camera will pick that up very easily. Now, my wife and I are extremely privileged. We've set up our life to be able to travel, but I'm not saying that you have to travel in order to get that same experience. You can join a local knitting club, join a bowling league, go out and hang out with your friends, start a film club, do things outside of simply acting and voice acting to enrich yourself, to bring experience into your actual performances. I'm right now studying at the Stella Adler Academy. My teachers have been absolutely incredible. It is once again the opportunity of the lifetime. I first want to say thank you to Sovas. I got a scholarship from the Sovas Awards 2 years ago. And Rudy and Joan, thank you so much for the opportunity to actually be able to take these classes. And I hope to one day be able to give back to the acting, to the voice acting community in the same way that you gave me this opportunity. So thank you. One of the things that we are learning very heavily is that the words don't matter, that the actions don't matter, that having life, having specificity and life is what helps to embolden the experience that you are providing to the end either listener or the end viewer. And when you're going in and auditioning for 5, 10, 15 auditions a day, or even a week, if this is a smaller part-time hobby for you, when you're building up to your full-time creative career, you need to know how to actually embody these performances so that you have more time, so that you can give a richer performance. There we are. So that you're not just throwing shit at a wall and seeing what sticks. So that you are actually putting a performance out there and you'll end up getting more callbacks. Theoretically. So, what did it mean when I was told not to actually talk about anything related to acting? Well, it meant that I was easily able to become more comfortable in the room. I talked about how we travel. I talked about how I love photography, how I love taking pictures in deserts or traveling to the snowy peaks in Colorado, taking landscape photos. I talked about how I've been a musician for 18 years of my life, playing classical music and leading trios, quartets, duos, jazz ensembles, and the like. Talked about how I love to watch movies and how I have a YouTube channel. Talked about how I love sports, how last month I ran 100 miles, and this month I'm doing the various routines of various people, Jonathan Majors being this month's routine. He's kicking my ass. And I was able to comfortably settle in because I wasn't thinking that they were judging me for an acting performance. I mean, hell, the read was only 2 sentences long. It was a commercial that I was auditioning for. I was just having a conversation and sharing what I've learned throughout my very short life of 29 years. And it gave me the ability to come from a place of comfort. The anxiety was still there. I never want you to beat yourself up thinking, hey, If I practice and train and practice, the anxiety is going to go away. To have anxiety is to be human. It's always going to be there. I heard from the Sovis Awards, there was a wonderful speech about someone, a voice actor, who learned to simply carry their fear along with them into each performance. Instead of letting it be a hinder to them, to simply accept it, say, hey, I know you, I know what you look like, and carry it along. And that's something that happens to this very day. Like I said, I've been playing and performing for 18 years of my life, and that anxiety is still there. It's just a part of us. So when I have this conversation, don't think that one day you're going to defeat this dragon. It's always going to be there in one form or another. But you need to learn how to harness your performances through your lived life and your lived experiences in order to make it so that anxiety does not come up into your actual auditions and your performances. There are a couple different ways that you can do this. And let's just start by talking about one of the ones that we learned in class. This was taught from the Stella Adler Academy, and this is a technique that Stella herself championed. I am not a registered teacher of the Stella Adler technique. I am learning it myself and simply sharing the wisdom with you that I have learned throughout these classes. This is one technique. I've heard in my time as a voice actor, going out for many auditions, auditioning in front of casting directors, auditioning in front of various agents, that one thing rings true. And that one thing is, you need to know your who, what, when, where, why, and how. And that's never really fully sunk in and made sense to me. It's very easy to go, okay, I'm saying this line to my mom. It is dinner time. I am a couple inches away from her. I love her, and I'm very excited, right? Very easy to go. But there's no connection to that. You just said, you answered the question without going deeper. And one thing that we have been learning is that specificity is depth, and depth is connection. I'm going to share this with you. We've essentially been going over creating an environment and creating a room. Creating a vehicle so that our actions and the lines make sense, and creating it on our own terms without having to dive deep into the text if it's not given. If it is given and there are truths in the scenario, then you have to live by the truths in those scenarios. If your character is sick, then you're sick, right? You can't play it like you're not. You have to live by the truths in your scenario. But you have the ability and the right and the need to create the concept within your own reality. And that's what breathes strength into your reads. That's what helps you land these actual gigs. So let's say the line is simply, let's say the line from an audition that I had recently. Everybody has their thing. Groceries? That's my thing. Nice, simple, to the point. That's the line, right? It's easy enough to just get caught up on the words. Everybody has their thing. Groceries, that's my thing. It's easy enough to figure out different ways to deliver that, different ways to say that. If the specs say commercial, everybody has their thing. Groceries, that's my thing. If it says real person, everybody has their thing. Groceries, that's my thing. But you need to go deeper than that, because that is just brushing the surface level and going off of the specs. So, who are you as you're someone saying that? Are you a home chef and you just learned how to make a new recipe and you're super excited before a camera gets shown to you and you're like, well, everybody has their thing. Groceries, that's my thing. That breeds new excitement. There's a reason why you're saying this. It's not just answering, okay, you're in a kitchen, but what does the kitchen look like? What knife are you using? What's the cutting board that you're cutting on? Is it wood, plastic, marble? What are you actually physically doing? When you say this line, who is it to and what is the relationship with that person? Yes, obviously you're saying it for a camera. There's a camera in your face. However, this camera is not just this hunk of metal. You're saying it to a person. There is movement and emotion behind your eyes, and there's a reason for you to say this thing other than just it's on the script, obviously, and it's what you need to say in this moment, in this circumstance. There should be so much specificity that you're saying this not because it's on the sheet of paper, but because it's the only thing that you would say in this scenario. It's the only thing that makes sense for you and your character to say in this scenario. And that is one of the ways that you improve and increase your chances of landing more and more jobs. Because as I always say in this podcast, it is artist over actor. And we're multi-hyphenate creators here. We don't just go in one realm. We are multiple things. Whether you are an actor, on screen, theater, voice, no matter what genre, a musician, a painter, in sports, no matter what you're doing with your creativity, a writer, a director, a cinematographer, no matter what you're doing, the artistry for your eye and your vision and your life, going all the way back to the beginning, is what makes the big difference and helps to bring your story forward. It's very easy to just set up lights in a room and click on a camera. But a cinematographer has an eye for what the camera is actually looking at to enhance the subject. It's very easy to write words on a page, but a writer can draw from their own experiences to write a story that mirrors their life but also deviates greatly to connect with the end person who is reading. That's what it's all about. At the end of the day, this in-person audition, which I absolutely love, led me deeper down the rabbit hole of understanding that we are real people. Obviously, it's not a conspiracy here. And as real people, we are doing something artistic and something that has no physical hold, bringing a script and words to life. The physical hold is what we physically create to give these words impact and meaning. And that is the most important, essential aspect. And I will leave you with this. In college, we had, I say we, my wife and I, we were in the same class. We had an absolutely incredible director, conductor, instructor, Corey Ganschow. She was instrumental in teaching me how musicality has a physicality that goes along with it. And she would always say that you can stretch music and stretch a phrase to have weight. That you can just hold it like it's taffy and then just pull and feel a resistance on an intangible thing. And that is what we're doing when we read a script. We are creating that resistance so that the person on the other side, whether they are a viewer or a listener, feels the words that we are saying. It doesn't just wash over them. They feel a connection with the unintangible or just intangible. And that's what we are as artists. We are creating tangibility in the intangible. Anyway, that's thank you so much for joining in another podcast. It's been a little while since we've had this more polished segment, and more information is going to be coming out about these classes and the camp that I'm going to be leading. I've had a lot of questions asking me if I was ever planning on having something more formalized, teaching, whether that be individual lessons or group lessons, and I was never really going to do it. But recently it's been more so in me to want to give back to the community in a way that gets away from just the traditional acting coach or voiceover class, or I've been wanting to go deeper and to help others go deeper so that they can learn not just how to use their instrument, how to play their instrument, but how to apply themselves into their instrument to make that big difference. So thank you for joining on another episode of Artist Over Actor. Stay creative, and I'll catch you in the next one.